are going to discuss about skeletal muscle relaxant, which are also known as antispasmodics. So let's start. Peripherally acting muscle relaxants are divided into neuromuscular agents, means neuromuscular blocking agents, directly acting agents. Directly acting agents are dantrolene and sodium, quinine, and neuromuscular blocking agents are non-depolarizing competitive blockers, depolarizing blockers. They are succinylcholine, succinylcholine. We will call as succinylcholine and decamethonium. Non-depolarizing competitive blockers, they are again classified according to the duration of action as long acting, intermediate acting and short acting. Long acting are D-tubocuronium, pancuronium, doxacuronium, pipicuronium. Immediate acting vecuronium, atracurium, cisatracurium, rocurium, propacuronium. Short acting mivacurium. What is the mechanism of action? It is very important to know the mechanism of action to understand the effects of the drug at different organs, okay, different sites. What is the mechanism of action? This will act by two types. One is competitive block, another one is depolarizing block. Competitive block we called as non-depolarizing block. Competitive blockers will have the affinity to the NM cholinergic receptors at the muscle end plate. These NM receptors, we know actually cholinergic receptors are two types, NM and NN. NN present in the ganglion, NM is present in the muscle end plate. So these NM receptors will consist of 5 subunits. They are alpha 2, beta, epsilon naught or gamma and delta receptors. They will be arranged as a rose petal manner, and in the center we will see sodium channels. So 2 alpha, they will bind to the 2 acetylcholine binding sites which have negatively charged groups. If they have negative, they will get attracted to positive. So they will get attracted to positive or cationic head of acetylcholine, and they will bind to the acetylcholine. This will lead to the opening. This will trigger the opening of the sodium channels. So most of the competitive blockers, they will have 2 or more N plus quaternary atoms. So they will be attracted to negatively charged groups. But this will be inhibited due to the bulky nature of the curar molecules. They will only bind and they will only will cause the opening of the sodium channels. Okay. These competitive blockers, because of the thick bulky nature, they are known as pachycurare, given by Bovet. We know now this is if we see this is this is neuromuscular junction. Okay, this is neuromuscular junction. From this, acetylcholine will be released, and it will get bind into the receptors. Okay, if it can't bind into the receptors, then end plate potential will be falling. Before we understand this is normal, no? Presynaptic, postsynaptic. Presynaptically, the synaptic vesicles will get fused with the presynaptic membrane, and this acetylcholine will be released into the synaptic cleft, and it will bind to the receptors present on post-junctional membrane. Here, this acetylcholine means some acetylcholine which cannot bind into the this presynaptic receptors, then this end plate potential, what will happen, this will fall. So if it falls below the critical level, it is unable to trigger the propagated muscle action potential. Then what will happen, in spite of this nerve impulse, muscle cannot able to contract, muscle contraction will fail. So antagonism, which is controlled by increasing the so we have to increase the acetylcholine concentration by increasing acetylcholine concentration in vitro, or by giving the anticholinesterase in vivo. We can stop this mechanism. At higher concentrations, Curar-like drugs, they will enter into the sodium channels. They will enter into the sodium channels and they will directly block them. So what will happen? More intensive non-competitive neuromuscular blockade will occur. So we have to, if we want to produce antagonism, we have to give Curar-like drugs in more concentration. Then only they will enter directly into the sodium channels and they will directly block them So we'll get neuromuscular blockade, which is non-competitive. So this is partially reversible by neostigmine, which is an anticholinesterase, and it will increase the acetylcholine concentration and prevent the sodium channel blockade. Next, competitive blockers. These competitive blockers, they will also block the prejunctional nicotinic receptors, which are located on the motor nerve endings. So this receptor activation by acetylcholine from the axon and motor nerve endings, they block it. It will contribute to the depression of the neuromuscular transmission. We understood that from motor nerve endings, acetylcholine receptor activation and their blockade will contribute to neuromuscular transmission. I can't take sense. Okay. Competitive blockers, they will exhibit the fade phenomenon. What is meant by fading? Initially, these muscle twitches will be more, then rapidly they will get decreases. Okay. On repetitive stimulation of muscle fiber, the twitchings will be decreased. This is known as fade phenomena. If tetanic stimulation occurs, then this will, for single impulse, there is gradual increase in the response. Okay, this is known as post-tetanic potentiation. Why this is occurring means due to the presynaptic ACH mobilization, this post-tetanic potentiation will occur. As we saw in the diagram, normally by giving D-tubocuranin, it will act on the neuromuscular junction and muscular twitches will be produced. They will, which are produced, they will be gradually decreasing. And if we give neostigmine and after post-tetanic stimulation, the twitchings are gradually increased. Means partial reversal of this NMJ block occurring there. So after being said these much, so I got a question like why we are calling them as peripherally acting skeletal muscle relaxants, or they are blocking only peripheral. How we know? We have known this because scientists did some experiment. They injected this D-tubocuranin in the ventral lymph sac of the frog. So what happened? As we saw, this muscle twitchings are inhibited, but if blood supply is occluded, these muscle twitchings normally continue. They are not blocked. Means if it is acting centrally, even though in spite of lack of this blood supply, if you occlude the blood supply, then also muscle twitches would have been inhibited. But muscle contractions are not inhibited, okay, by D-tubocuranin. So we are saying that this is a peripherally acting skeletal muscle relaxant. So we'll continue to the topic. Then depolarizing block. What we meant by depolarizing block? We all know what is depolarizing first. Inside normally for a muscle fiber, inside will be negative, outside will be positive. This conversion inside positive and outside will be negative, which is known as depolarizing block. So how this is occurring? These depolarizing blockers are mainly dexamethasone and succinylcholine. So unlike acetylcholine, these are metabolized by pseudocholinesterases and the succinylcholinesterases, which are plasma enzymes. So submaximal intrinsic activity of them will be seen at the neuromuscular junction only at the NM cholinergic receptors. Okay, they will depolarize the muscle end plates. We already saw by opening the sodium channel, sodium entry will occur and inside will become more positive and depolarization is occurring and twitchings are produced and fasciculations which are initiated. Then this focally innervated mammalian muscle stimulation, which is transient. This innervation is transient. Okay, if long lasting depolarization of muscle end plate, it will produce repetitive stimulation of fiber. This is common, no? If long-lasting depolarization occurs in the muscle end plate, what will happen? Repetitive excitation of the fiber will occur. This is common. This is a common process. This is occurring. So, if we say, for example, it is not mammalian innervated muscle like we will take rectus abdominis of frog, and this is multiply innervated by so many nerves. If this stimulation will provide stimulation, this stimulation which is prolonged and sustained contraction will occur. Okay. In multiply innervated contraction muscle like rectus abdominis of the frog, if the stimulation which is prolonged, this stimulation by dexamethasone and succinate choline is prolonged, then sustained contraction will be produced. There is that is stimulation is transient. This is sustained contraction. Okay. Okay, understood. So they not as we saw earlier, they not dissociation from the receptor, and they are not hydrolyzed by acetylcholinesterase. They will be hydrolyzed by pseudocholinesterase and succinate cholinesterase, which are plasma enzymes. Then if we induce prolongedly partial depolarization of the region around muscle plate will be occur, and inactivation of sodium channels. If we continuously, if we induce the neuromuscular junction by this dexamethasone and succinate choline, then what will happen? Partial depolarization only occurring. Why there is no complete depolarization? Because these sodium channels will get inactivated. Why they are getting inactivated? Due to the repeated prolonged depolarization, they will attain some tolerance like state, and this normally that transmembrane potential TMP I written. Transmembrane potential is minus 70 to minus 90. Now it is dropped to minus 50 millivolts, so that inactivation of sodium channels is occurring. Acetylcholine, which is released from the motor nerve endings, it is unable to generate propagated minimum muscle action potential, so that flaccid paralysis is occurring. Okay. Now ACH, which is releasing from that, which is it is unable to generate muscle action potential, so that weak muscle contractions are occurring. And sometimes if this occur at the respiratory muscles also, and patient will go into death like state. So flaccid paralysis occurring, weakening of muscle contractions are occurring. Zone of inexcitability created around the end plate. Okay. Muscle fiber is not excitable around the end plate, around the motor end plate, preventing the activation of fiber. So, if in birds, this area of depolarization, if occurring, more extensive and spastic paralysis occurs. Spastic means there will be rigidity in the limbs, which is occurring. So, depolarizing blockers are also have two quaternary N plus atoms, as we saw before in non-depolarizing blockers. Also, we saw two quaternary N plus atoms, but the molecule is long, slender and flexible. So we are calling as it is long, slender, leptocurar we are calling. This name also given by Bovet. In species like dog, rabbit, rat and monkey, slow contracting soleus muscle. In humans we will call the soleus muscle as peripheral heart, right? Slow contracting soleus muscle of the cat. Depolarizing agents injected in high doses or infused continuously produce dual mechanism neuromuscular blockade. Okay. Slow contracting soleus muscle of cat, if these drugs are active, and if we induce them at high doses, they will produce depolarization, and they will show two types of responses. One is phase 1 block and another one is phase 2 block. Phase 1 block is rapid in onset, which results from the persistent depolarization in the muscle end plate. So, what are the features? Means depolarization declines afterwards, and depolarization will be declining, and depolarization will occur gradually despite of presence of this drug in the receptor. but neuromuscular junction which is not restored. At the neuromuscular junction, it is not restored. Phase 2 block will be supervenes. What is phase 2 block? Phase 2 block is also slow in onset, which results from the desensitization of the receptor of ACH. Okay, desensitization will be occurring because of continued use of this dexamethasone and succinylcholine. So it resembles superficial to block, which is produced by the D-tuberculan. So the muscle membrane, which is newly repolarized and nearly repolarized, recovery will be slow. Contraction is not sustained due to the tetanic stimulation. Block is reversed by anticholinesterase like neostigmine and physostigmine. In man, fast contracting muscle like tibialis anterior of the cat. Okay, any phase. What which phase will occur? Only phase 1 blockade will occur. Okay, in man and fast contracting muscle like tibialis anterior of the cat, this will occur. Phase 2 block, which is seen in the man when succinylcholine which is injected in the high doses or infused continuously. Phase 2 block will be seen. Like if fluorine anesthesia have been used, then this phase 2 block will be seen. So succinylcholine readily induces a phase 2 block in the patients with the atypical or deficient pseudocholesterol. Okay, if there is no pseudocholesterol, there will be deficiency of pseudocholesterol, then succinylcholine cannot be broken down. So it will produce phase 2 block. So what are the, at last, at finally we will see what are the features of competitive and typical depolarizing blockers. Competitive block, depolarizing block. Competitive block is produced by DTC and depolarizing block which is phase 1 block which is produced by succinylcholine. Paralysis, how paralysis occurring in man? It is flaccid paralysis, weakening of the muscles. In both, in depolarizing block, first fasciculations, muscle twitchings will occur. After that, the flaccid, they will become flaccid. How paralysis in chick will occur means with the tubercularine, flaccid paralysis occurs. With the succinylcholine, spastic paralysis occurs as we discussed earlier. Effect of isolated Rox rectus muscle, no contraction with deep tubercularine, contraction with the succinylcholine. Species specificity, rat is greater than rabbit is greater than cat, whereas in succinylcholine cat is greater than rabbit is greater than rat. Tetanic stimulation due to that genes, the species sensitivity specificity which is seen. Human neonates will be more sensitive for D-tubercularine and depolarizing block 1, phase 1 blockade. Relatively, neonates will be resistant to this phase 1 blockade. Tetanic stimulation during partial block, poorly sustained contraction with the D-tubercularine and well sustained contraction with the succinylcholine. Neostigmine antagonizes the block with D-tubercularine. No effect will be seen with the succinylcholine. Post-tetanic stimulation is present with the competitive block, absent with the succinylcholine. Post-tetanic stimulation which is present and it is absent. Ether anesthesia, synergetic, no effect. Order of paralysis, fingers, ears, limbs, neck, face. Okay. Here, neck, limbs, face, jaw, eyes, pharynx, and trunk will be last paralyzed. So, effect of lowering temperature. If we reduce the temperature with D-tubercularine, block will be reduced, and with succinylcholine, the block will be intensifies. Okay. Effect of cathodal currents to the end plate will lessen the block with D-tubercularine and enhances the block with the succinylcholine. Thank you guys. Thank you for patiently listening to me, and I think some more better explanation is needed in that phase 1 and phase 2 blocks, and I tried somewhat. Okay, thank you for listening to me. Thank you. It will be continued, and we have to learn about the actions on the CNS, skeletal muscles, and everything. So we'll continue, and we will do small video on that also later. Thank you, and like, share, comment. Thank you.